I will start.
Sorry. Bye, Joy.
What the heck? Where are you going? All right. On one afternoon in 1992, as my father drove home from work to the neighborhood of Florence, Los Angeles, he watched as insanity unfolded before his eyes. In response to the acquittal of 4 white police officers who brutally assaulted a black man, Rodney King, the predominantly black neighborhood of Florence, Los Angeles erupted into violence. He watched as people cheered on as 3 men pulled another from a truck and beat him senselessly. He watched as bricks flew through shop windows, shattering the glass all over the floor as people clamored over each other to loot the valuables inside. My father watched as these riots spread over LA like wildfire, with each wave more intense and more destructive than the last. Now, the people partaking in these riots were not criminally insane. They did not have a history of violence. Instead, they were angry, but not as individuals, as a collective. And while the anger of the mob was justified, it did not achieve any justice. Instead, it achieved $1 billion in property damage, looting, theft, and public disorder to predominantly the protesters' own neighborhoods. A lack of focus and objectivity clouded the protesters and led to a degradation of their own living conditions. Now, mobs today are much worse. They're larger, more influential, and more destructive than ever before. And this has led to an inability of ours to judge, think clearly, and showcase our individuality. Mob mentality is often defined as the characteristics that a crowd takes on when together. More generally, it can describe general trends that humans take when influenced by each other, such as buying decisions, fashion choices, accents, anything that a society implements upon its people. Sigmund Freud, the famous psychologist, defined mob mentality as when a crowd is overtaken by the unconscious mind, when the individual complex emotions of each member is overtaken by a widespread simplistic emotion of the lowest common denominator. He also argued that mobs are at their worst when they're composed of like-minded individuals, as their behavior reinforces each other, leading to a spiral out of control. Another idea that Freud had was that it was the proximity of other people to each other that led to the closeness of the mob. As an example, look to the LA riots in 1992. The reason they spread so fast was because the population centers that they took place in were highly dense. As another example, look to this room. There are no outbursts caused in this room because you are sitting next to judging peers close by. Your fashion choices, just like mine, are determined by the watchful eyes of strangers and friends alike. Now, in our digital era, we are closer than ever before. The wonders of the internet have given us the ability to carry thousands of people at a time, all the time, close to us, as they hide in the various social media apps of your smartphone. This new digital network means that there are people constantly influencing your lives at all times, and the effects are profound. A recent Pew Research study found that active Reddit users, a social platform, were 40 times more likely to support Bernie Sanders for the Democratic nomination than Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump actively uses Reddit to work up crowds as he tweets embarrassing and outburst tweets. The Arab Spring was only possible by the connections that were made over social networks. And finally, on a more lighter note, the Ice Bucket Challenge led to a $230 million spike in donations for ALS. These new digital mobs are different in the characteristics that they are larger and more impactful. However, they also take on the same characteristics of those physical mobs that came before. They spread like wildfire, and they are influential on the people that they take over. However, it is not these viral events for the reason that I'm giving this talk. It is instead an entire generation, my younger siblings, and I'm sure your younger siblings, that have been immersed in a world where they are learning computer science and constantly exposed to social networks throughout most of their lives. These people have the tools to make serious damage on the digital infrastructure of our world. And if they are ever mobilized in a mob that spirals out of control, the destruction that is possibly to be caused by these people is orders of magnitude higher than those of the LA riots. But more importantly, And the main reason I'm giving this talk is that I want each of you to see what social networks really are. Most human beings only have 5 or 6 friends. You do not have over 1,000 friends. Instead, what you have is a mob, a digital mob, a collective, a hive mind, telling you how to live your life through likes, shares, retweets, comments, reblogs, whatever. But what I want each of you to do after this talk is simply take a step back, just like this, and ask yourself, are they right? Thank you.